We gave your seat to Marcos's girlfriend. That was the message my mother sent me, right after I'd financed their entire trip to France, a total of 13,000 euros. I replied, then let her pay the bills. And I canceled everything before their plane even landed. I stared at the notification on the screen, the little dots blinking as if announcing even more contempt. My mother's message was brief and casual, as if she hadn't just thrown away 3 months of planning and 13,000 euros of my savings. We gave your seat to Marcos's girlfriend. She's more fun. No apologies, no explanations, just a coldly written slap in the face. My response was equally terse. Understood. Then I did what no one expected. I shut everything down. The trip, the tickets, the hotel reservations, everything canceled. I didn't get the money back. I didn't care. I had paid for it, and if I had to destroy it all, I would. That same afternoon, I changed the locks on the house. Legally, it was mine. Anyway, they had been living there for 5 years without paying a cent of rent, laughing behind my back. Now it was my turn to laugh. But let's rewind a bit. Let me explain how I got to the point where I could ruin a family vacation, triple my parents' rent, and cut off my dear golden brother as if he were a problem I should have solved a long time ago. It all started with this stupid belief that I could be the loyal son. My father was turning 65, a significant number, and I thought, what better way to celebrate than a family vacation to France? He'd always said he wanted to see the cherry blossoms in Avignon before his knees gave out. My mother treated sushi like a sacred ritual. Marcos, my younger brother, said he wanted to try authentic ramen, not the cheap instant kind. So I did exactly what everyone told me not to do. I paid for everything. 12,000 euros in total for flights, hotels, train tickets, even restaurant reservations. I planned the itinerary while working on my own projects. I spent weekends checking how close the hotels were to tourist sites and shopping areas, comparing transportation prices. I even paid extra to upgrade their flight seats. I didn't worry about my own comfort. I chose a basic seat and a small room in Lyon because I believed that's what love was. But Marcos always found a way to remind me what I was to this family. Unimportant, unexciting, just the bank account. So when I saw the message, we gave your seat to Marcos's girlfriend. She's more fun. I wasn't surprised. I felt awake, and that kind of lucidity in someone who's been taken advantage of for too long can become dangerous. They always assumed I'd stay silent. Until I didn't. It all started with the guilt. That's how they keep you trapped. Not with affection, not with duty, just with guilt. My parents never directly asked me to cover the expenses. They'd use subtle phrases. Marcos is doing what he can, but these days are difficult for young people. He's lucky to have a job. Not everyone does. We're proud of you, really. We wish Marcos had had your ambition from the beginning. I paid because it seemed fair. As the older brother, I thought helping him graduate was the right thing to do. I paid his tuition, bought his books, even replaced his laptop when his suddenly stopped working 2 weeks before exams. But support soon became an obligation. 3 months after graduation, he hadn't even looked for a job. He said he was still figuring things out while playing FIFA on my couch every day. I'd come home after a 12-hour day and find him eating food I'd paid for, feet up on the coffee table, in a house that belonged to me. My mother would say, he just needs space. Honey, don't pressure him. My father wouldn't even look up from his tablet. Leave him be, he'd murmur, as if I were the problem. Things got worse when Marcos got a girlfriend. Carmen, as she demanded to be called, moved in just 2 months after they met. No warning, no rent paid, she just appeared, took control of my kitchen, watched series on my streaming platform, used my waffle iron nonstop. One night, I caught her using my dress shoes for a social media video. I'm playing a character, she said, smiling. Don't be so rigid. Marcos laughed. Dude, relax. She's hilarious. That word, hilarious, still echoes in my head. I stayed quiet. I kept paying all their expenses because they were family. Because Antonio would be upset if we argued. Because I earned well. When Marcos was fired from the job I'd gotten him after being late 3 times in the first week, I took care of his car payments so his credit score wouldn't sink. When Carmen wrecked his previous car, I applied for a loan with her for a used car. The paperwork was in my name. Naive, I see that clearly now. And when, without warning, they told us they wanted to join Antonio's birthday trip, I didn't hesitate. I changed the itinerary. I booked more hotel rooms. I reorganized all the plans. I even modified my vacation days at work to make it fit. And what did I get in return? We gave your seat to Marcos's girlfriend. She's more fun. That wasn't just a rude comment. It was a confirmation, a sentence that proved everything I'd always suspected. To them, I wasn't fun or loved or even visible, just practical, like a debit card with legs. And the worst part is, I allowed it all. But they weren't finished, not by a long shot. The morning they landed in France, I got a message from Marcos. Can you transfer us some money? Carmen forgot her wallet, and Dad says the exchange rate is horrible. I ignored it. 60 minutes later, another message. Dude, don't be spiteful. This trip is for Dad, not for your feelings. I almost smashed my phone against the wall in rage. They'd taken my seat, the trip, my only moment, and they were still asking for more. But I stayed silent. I let them enjoy themselves. I let them upload edited, happy clips of a false harmony while I stayed home alone, immersed in a fury I didn't even know how to express. Until the 5th day of the trip. That's when the hotel called. Mr. Javier, we're calling because the card linked to the reservation has failed, and there's a problem with one of the guests. Someone unauthorized has been added to the suite. And in that instant, I understood everything. They had removed me from the trip, replaced my name with Carmen's without informing the hotel, and updated my bank details so the cost would fall on me. They thought I wouldn't notice. But that was the real breaking point. Not the insult, not the money, not even being left out of my father's birthday. It was their certainty that I would tolerate all of that, and that I always would. I logged into my online banking, disputed the charges, canceled the card, and called the hotel again. Please remove all persons from the reservation. It is completely canceled. Also, notify security if they resist. They do not have permission to stay. The employee hesitated. Sir, they are still inside the suite. I know, I replied. Let them figure out how to get back. When they returned and discovered that everything had changed, I was in the kitchen making coffee. I heard the car door slam. Shouts. A nervous voice, Rosa's. Another, shriller, Marcos's. And then Carmen's, even louder and angrier than both. I didn't rush. I stirred my coffee calmly and waited. Then came the knocking loud. Javier. 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 Open the door. Marcos yelled. We know you're in there. I went to the entrance, cup in hand, and looked through the peephole. There they were, red faces, messy hair, bags thrown on the porch. Carmen wasn't wearing shoes. I opened the bolt, cracked the door just enough to look them in the eye. What happened to our keys? Marcos asked, indignant. I took a sip from my cup. The ones I smashed to pieces? Those don't open anything anymore. Are you serious? He practically barked. I nodded serenely, firmly. Rosa stepped forward. We just got off a 14-hour flight. We're tired and starving, Rosa added. You're on private property, I replied. You shouldn't be here. Are you serious? Carmen interjected, her voice sharp and irritated. Are you really going to leave your own family outside? I looked at her for a few seconds and then replied without emotion. You're not my family. Her mouth dropped open in surprise. Marcos froze. Come on, he said. We're stuck in Lyon with no money, no hotel, nothing. You have no idea how hard it was. How hard must it be? I replied. Being trapped abroad with someone else's money? Oh, wait. That's exactly what you did. Marcos's face turned red. You humiliated us. You canceled everything. We couldn't even book transportation to the airport. The bank froze the cards. That's right, I answered, crossing my arms. That usually happens when you commit card abuse. Rosa let out a choked sigh. Abuse? That's absurd. Stop pretending. I'm not pretending, I said clearly. I held up my phone. On the screen was the message from the hotel manager. Paused. Unauthorized person. Charges reversed. Marcos, I asked, did you or did you not put Carmen in the hotel room using my identity? He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. Then he turned to Carmen. She shrugged as if she didn't care. I stepped aside slightly so they could glance inside the house, but there was almost nothing left. The sofa, gone. The table, no longer there. Every object they'd lounged on as if it belonged to them, gifted. The walls, empty. I'd emptied everything. Did you take everything out of the house? Rosa asked, taking a step forward. I didn't answer. I took everything out of my house. Marcos's fist clenched. We've been living here for years without paying a cent, I added. You never helped. You never showed respect. Rosa's face twisted. We're blood. This is disgusting. You're treating us like criminals for a simple mistake. I let out a short laugh. A mistake? You hijacked the trip I planned. You used my card. You kicked me out of something I built for Antonio's birthday. All because I wasn't entertaining enough. You're not even listening to yourselves. You're just resentful, Carmen muttered, rolling her eyes. You're mad because we had more fun without you. That's when I turned and closed the door behind me. Do you think this has to do with France? I said quietly. Do you really think this is about a trip? No. This is about everything I gave up for you. Every euro I put in, every time I let you live here for free while you laughed at me behind my back. That never. Rosa began. Yes, I interrupted. You all did it. And it's over. Marcos stared at me as if I were speaking another language. So now we're on the street? No, I said. You have 14 days. The rent is now 3 times higher. You cover all the bills. The guest room is closed. If you want to stay, you'll have to pay. He laughed scornfully. You're kidding. Carmen crossed her arms. You can't kick us out like this. Oh, yes, I can, I said, pulling a document from my coat pocket. This is the lease agreement. It's valid and it's terminated. Oh, and by the way, I added, your cards were declined at that cafe this morning. I got the alert on my phone. The silence was brutal. I turned to go back inside. Marcos grabbed my arm. Wait, please, he pleaded, his voice trembling. You don't understand. I have nowhere to go. Carmen thought this trip would help us get closer. She didn't mean to hurt you. Carmen opened her mouth but said nothing. She stayed quiet. Marcos's eyes were wet. He was crying. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I felt absolutely nothing. Not pity, not anger, just a cold emptiness, a cold calm. You used to be my brother, I said. But you chose fun over family. That's not love, that's a reality TV show. Then I turned, went back inside, locked the door, and left them standing there in the wind. They returned to a different life, one in which I no longer existed. 3 days. That's how long it took for everything to fall apart. The morning after their return, everything was silent. Too silent. I expected drama, shouts, messages full of emotional guilt in the family chat. But nothing happened. I had breakfast alone, just coffee, a roll with butter, and a strange sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the kind of silence you hear, it was the kind you carry inside. On the 4th day, my phone vibrated. Can we talk? Mom. I regret everything. We all messed up. Don't do this to Dad. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because I didn't owe them anything. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to explain myself to people who never really cared about me. And then the real disaster began. Their cards stopped working. Carmen tried to order a coffee twice, declined. I saw the alert and smiled. She uploaded a post. Some people are just spiteful. She deleted it 5 minutes later. As for the rent, a week later the new contract began, The new rate, 3 times higher than before. I got a notification in my email. Hey, we're having trouble managing the new rent amount. Can we talk about other options? No signature, just the family's shared login. I said nothing. Marcos, the same one who spent years doing nothing in my house, never holding a steady job, suddenly started taking small jobs. An acquaintance from the gym told me he was now folding clothes at the entrance counter. I didn't feel sorry for him. I had already moved to a loft-style apartment in the historic center. Bare wooden floors, large windows, clean layout. No family clutter, no shoes thrown in the hallway, no food scraps that weren't mine. I woke up at 7 a.m., went to the gym, logged into work from home, went for a walk in the afternoon, and for the first time in a long time, every minute, every euro, every breath was under my control. No messages asking for grocery money, no sad stories asking for advances until Friday, no calls from Rosa saying, "But brother, how can you ignore this?" Just silence. In the second week, Marcos finally wrote, "I get it. I really messed up." Carmen left. She said this wasn't what she'd signed up for. Now I see it. You were right. I stared at his message for a while. This was the same Marcos who mocked my goals, who said I was boring, that I didn't know how to enjoy life. Now he was abandoned, left behind by his fun girlfriend, bearing the consequences without his human debit card. I didn't reply. And then came the unexpected, a letter from a legal representative. Your parents claim to be co-owners of your home. My lawyer said they were alleging that over time they had contributed financially and that now they wanted documentation. To date, they hadn't submitted anything. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was too ridiculous to take seriously. They always acted as if everything I bought somehow belonged to them too. I remembered one time Rosa saying, "This house belongs to everyone, honey. If it's yours, it's ours too." But today, that ours meant nothing. Another message from Rosa arrived. "We didn't raise you to be like this. Imagine what your father would think." This time I did reply. "You raised me to obey. That's over." What surprised me most wasn't their anger. It was how quickly their world fell apart without me. Marcos was working 10-hour shifts, barely managing to pay the bills. Rosa started calling old acquaintances, the same ones she used to criticize for having children who didn't help. Antonio, as always, remained silent. He never spoke in arguments. He never took sides when there was cruelty. His loyalty was to do nothing. And now they were trapped in the exact life they themselves had built, a life in which I no longer existed to rescue anyone. And me? I was lying on another sofa, in another apartment, drinking hot coffee. No one complaining, nothing in the room I hadn't chosen myself. For the first time in my life, I wasn't anyone's tool. I wasn't the one who always had to be the reliable one, the available one, the one who solved everything. And finally, I wasn't angry. I felt free. I was never the problem. I was the one holding it all together. They were the ones who only knew how to take. And sometimes silence is louder than shouts. It's been 90 days since I shut it all down. No more free living, no more Big Brother favors, no more pretending that family meant caring when it really meant control. I thought I'd feel regret, maybe sadness, perhaps isolation, but instead I feel something deeper. Calm. Now I wake up without that knot in my chest, without waiting for another demand, another favor disguised as affection. I no longer jump when the phone rings. I don't mentally prepare myself for messages disguised as concern, but filled with pressure. It's like emerging from a thick fog. I can finally breathe fully. 7 days ago, while unpacking boxes in my new apartment, I found an old container. Inside were photos, birthday cards, and a folder labeled family. I opened it. Inside were the plane tickets, receipts for trips I'd financed, hotel reservations in my name. It hit me hard. Every family memory had been paid for with my wallet. They said I lacked warmth, but I was the only one keeping everything going. I flipped through the photos. In each one, I was smiling, handing things over, driving, paying, organizing. The others were relaxed, like passengers in a vehicle driven by someone else. I used to think that made me strong. Now I see it made me invisible. They didn't care about me. They cared about what I gave. And when I stopped giving, they stopped pretending to love me. Marcos hasn't written to me again since Carmen left. A mutual acquaintance told me he lives in someone's basement and works as a food delivery driver. For the first time, I didn't feel superior, I didn't feel pity, I didn't feel anything, because what happens in his world is no longer my burden. Carmen deleted her profiles, removed all our photos, removed the whole family from her accounts. The show ended as soon as the free perks disappeared. My mother sent her last message: "We didn't raise you to be like this. We miss the way you used to be." I replied, "You miss the version of me who never said no." He's gone. My father, of course, said nothing. As always, he watched the years go by as he watched everything fall apart, drinking coffee and not intervening. He never raised his voice, never acted, just observed. And the truth is, that hurt more, turning his involvement into something passive, but just as destructive. I stopped expecting peace from them, so I created it for myself. One night, I sat in silence, no screens, no messages, just me with a black coffee in my hands, looking at the illuminated windows of the nearby buildings. And for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel empty, it felt deserved. That night, I took a sticky note, wrote a sentence, and stuck it on the mirror. No one owes me more than I owe myself. Since then, I repeat it every day in silence, like a personal ritual. Curiously, the same people who drained me now say I'm cold. They say, "You're not the same anymore." And they're right. Before, I was the ground they walked on. Now, I'm the sea they can't cross. A few days ago, Marcos's old girlfriend, Elena, got in touch. We barely spoke when they were together, but she was always kind and reserved. She told me, "You were the only one who realized how badly they treated you. I'm glad you left. You saved yourself." It impacted me more than I imagined because I had started to wonder if I was the problem. Elena reminded me that I wasn't losing my mind. I was just the first to wake up. I used to think leaving made me heartless. Now I know it was self-preservation. They always told me love meant giving up, but it was never their turn, always mine. They called me insensitive. I call it vision. They called me cruel. I call it recovery. They called me selfish, but only after I stopped belonging to them. And the best part? I don't feel hate. I don't want them to suffer. I simply don't owe them anything anymore. And that liberation is like breathing fresh air for the first time. Next week, I'm flying solo to Norway. I always wanted to see the Northern Lights, but I never went. There was always another fire to put out, another chaos to resolve, another someone else's party that I ended up financing. But this time, I'm going for myself. And when I'm under those bright skies, in the freezing air, far from everything I used to carry, I'll finally say it out loud. I'm not your emergency button. I'm not your second choice. I'm not your wallet, your plan B, or your fool. I'm my own person. And for the first time, that's all I need to be.